Hi, my name is Ella, and guess what time it is? It's cookie time! This year, I'm planning on selling 200 boxes or more. Please help supporting my troop by buying 1 boxes or maybe even 2 if you want to. My troop is planning on going on an exciting trip and helping my community. Please help support me by buying 1 box or more. Bye!
What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for January 24th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a feel-good Friday edition of the podcast, an NFC Championship Feel-Good Friday. And if you're feeling good, as Ella just told you, go buy some Girl Scout cookies. All the information is down in the link. If you don't want the cookies, you're still on your New Year's resolution diet, that's fine. You can donate and buy cookies that way as well. But help support Ella's Girl Scout troops right there in the link and celebrate NFC Championship Feel Good Friday with some Thin Mints or lemonades or peanut butter patties, which are my all-time favorite. Be sure to also follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont at Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Let's continue to outsmart the algorithm as we grow here in 2025. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, Jimbo_Mont, and just spread the word. That's the best way to get things going here. If you're enjoying this, likely someone in your circle of friends will as well. Be sure to check out our friends at On Pattison. We're featured in there a couple times a week. Great Philly sports coverage. Subscribe, and it gets delivered right to your inbox. John and the guys over there are doing a great job. All right, some last-minute superstition feedback. Lots of people still reaching out yesterday. I heard people talk about haircuts and not trimming beards and just the playoff beard. Fortunately for me, every day is a playoff beard. But thank you. Shout out to Scott from Ben Salem, who says an interesting superstition: does not wear Eagles gear during the game, which is interesting. Usually it's the opposite. I got to wear whatever the specific outfit is, but Scott in Ben Salem does not wear Eagles gear during the game and then always watches the playoff games from the same spot. So thank you, as always, for all of you who reached out on the Back to the Future voice and text line or through social media. Keep them coming. I like hearing what everybody seems to have, because we all have them. It's just a matter of who's the kookiest, and I don't care. I might say kooky. However, they work. They work. So keep them coming. All right, Flyers. Every now and then you get a smack in the face that reminds you that this team is a rebuilding team. Lost 6-1 last night up in New York to the Rangers. Had a 1-0 lead, and then it just fell apart. They had plenty of chances, though. So I feel as though the score might have suggested it was 6-1. However, they had chances and couldn't take advantage of them. But again, you'll have this with a young team who's rebuilding. No time to wallow in their sorrow, though. They're back at it up in Long Island tonight against the Islanders in a game they absolutely can and should be at least competitive in, but they should win this game. So Flyers, Islanders tonight, but 6-1, they lose to the Rangers after having the lead early 1-0. And if you care, the Sixers are at home tonight against the Cavaliers at 7. Maybe Paul George plays. Pretty much nobody else. Maxey will be there. This is going to be an ugly game. But Sixers Cavs tonight at the Wells Fargo Center, if you care. Check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things happening with their Sports Fan Network. That's available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And then go to Philly Goat. They were on KYW3 this morning. Didn't get a chance to see it because I was driving home from the gym, but Ryan was out there peddling his shirts, so maybe you should go buy shirts from Philly Goat. They got you covered for the Eagles. You want to express your disdain with the Sixers. Everything they got from head to toe you'll find something you like. Stickers for your kid's water bottle. I have a couple on the back of my truck. So go to Philly Goat. Be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. And now I can officially say, as seen on TV. All right, let's start now. NFC Championship. And it was a pretty quiet, I would say, day in Eagles land. But there was some news that came out. But let's start with the recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, which of the NFC Championship games, 2004 or 2017, had a bigger impact on the psyche of Philly fans? 63% of you said the 2017. I can see that argument because they won. There were a lot of questions coming in about Nick Foles, whether or not they were going to get blown out. It was a shame that Carson got hurt. So they did go on to win. So I can see that argument. But for me, it was that 04. Our old buddy Ryan from Salt Lake City checked in and said he also started to believe that we were cursed during that time frame. But I think it's just probably just a difference in the generational gap. Obviously, both of them had a great impact on fan psyche, so wanted to have a little bit of fun on a Thursday. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. All right, the AP Award Finalists were announced yesterday. Lots of Eagles. Saquon is a finalist for MVP, as well as Offensive Player of the Year. Likely won't get the MVP, but I could see him getting the Offensive Player of the Year. Zach Bond is a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. That's going to be tough, but again, I could see that. Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I don't know. I mean, I would love to see Quinyon get it, but I think it's probably going to be Jarrett Verse. And then Vic Fangio for Assistant Coach of the Year. What he's done with this defense this year has been nothing short of spectacular. One notable omission from the AP end-of-year awards, though, and that is Nick Sirianni is not on the Coach of the Year, one of the finalists, which truthfully is an absolute joke. I think a lot of it stems from the early season stuff where people ripped him, but the fact that he's not on the list, and you got Sean Payton in Denver, which I guess what he did was great too, but I don't know. Andy Reid, I mean, how is that Coach of the Year? That's what he does. I mean, it is what it is. Dan Campbell's on there. Dan Quinn. I mean, I could see Dan Quinn. That's legitimate. Dan Campbell, again, that's sort of what the expectations were. So I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous that Nick Sirianni is not one of the Coach of the Year's finalists. But let me know what you think. Not the question of the day, but I know there's still a small pocket out there that don't like Nick. But should Nick have been considered for Coach of the Year? Absolutely. But best way to combat that is just go out and, as the coach said in Major League, just win the whole effing thing. Or no, I guess that was Jake Taylor that said that. Sorry. It's been a while. But either way, go out and win the whole effing thing, and it doesn't matter who the Coach of the Year is. Speaking of Washington coaches, though, the defensive coordinator had his news conference yesterday, and I'm not sure what the end goal of this was, but said when asked about Jalen's running, I didn't hear the full question, but the quote that was going around was like, if he is going to run the ball, we're going to treat him as a running back. And that's kind of like the thank you, Captain Obvious moment. I don't know if it was strategically put out there to kind of get maybe under the Eagles players' skins and get them playing out of character. If you remember the last game, C.J. Gardner-Johnson got ejected for 2 personal foul penalties for talking. One, he was called because he got punched in the face, which I still don't understand. But I think this is more because really he didn't say anything. Every defensive player defensive coach in the league. If a quarterback is going out there, you run the risk, and they're going to treat it like a running back because it's fair game then. So he didn't really say much, but I have a feeling this is more, and I don't know if it's sort of like a desperation move, whether they know that the Eagles are the superior team talent-wise, so let's get the edge we can, maybe get them a little bit on edge. But listen, at this point, get me to Sunday if this is what we're talking about. But it's kind of like, yeah, thanks. Expect the same for Jaden Daniels. I mean, I don't know what you were expecting to get out of that, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, there are some other things going around that it might that some of the players are dirty, but hey, I mean, I fully expect Jalen to get hit if he's running the ball. We've been saying that for years now. Be smart with it, get out of bounds, slide, all of that stuff. So, I mean, thanks for not really saying much, but making a big story out of it so we have something to talk about. Injuries news, though. Did look like they did sort of like a walkthrough, but Quinyon and Jalen were both full participants. Dallas Goedert was not at practice, and neither was Cam Jurgens again. No, not a lot came out about what was going on. I know Cam Jurgens is with his back. I saw an interview with Landon Dickerson. He just said it was kind of a rest thing. He's the next man up. He just slid over and is taking care of it. They didn't seem too concerned about it. I'm sure we'll have a bigger update today as they get through practice. But both of those guys are worth monitoring, especially if Jalen is hobbled, because we saw it early. We saw it in the Green Bay game. We saw it last week. You got to get him involved over the middle, but we'll continue to monitor them as we go. All of that, though, does lead to today's question of the day. And I'm getting antsy, but we're almost there. Who needs to play better, the offense or the defense? And I think with the questions and everything with Jalen's health, you can make the case for the offense. With the way the defense imploded in the fourth quarter in the last game against Washington, you can make the case for that. But which unit needs to play better, the offense or the defense? I think it's got to come down to the defense. I think if you can contain Jaden Daniels and come up with some turnovers early, you're setting the offense up. And again, I don't want to get too much into the three keys until Sunday, but let me know your thoughts. 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. But who needs to play better, the offense or the defense? Get your vote in. You can also hit me up on social media and vote there as well. All right, today we're going to go back to 1988. And on this day, 1988, the number 3 Temple Owls went out to Las Vegas to take on the number 8 UNLV Runnin Rebels at the Thomas and Mack Center. Temple was undefeated, 14-0 at the time. UNLV was 13-1, so it was a heavyweight Sunday battle on ABC. Temple, to their credit, led 58-51 with just about 4 minutes to go, and then they let it slip away, though, suffering their first loss of the season, 59-58. Mark Macon had 19 points, but it did not come without controversy. With about 1:17 left, Howie Evans went to throw a pass to Mark Macon that looked like it was tipped and going out of bounds, but miraculously, UNLV came up with the interception. Mark Macon claims that the UNLV bench tipped it back in, but the ref didn't see it. The video footage was very grainy. If you're watching this on one of my social media, you can see it's hard to tell, but UNLV did go back down the other way. Today, likely this play would be reviewed and overturned if they did indeed tip it in. However, Temple just played sloppy down the stretch. Very uncharacteristic for that team. Turnovers, bad shot selection, missed free throws, and it did lead to them giving up the lead and being defeated with 2 seconds left. Again, first defeat of the season. However, those Owls would not lose again until the NCAA tournament. One of the greatest teams to ever play on North Broad Street But on this day, back in 1988, John Chaney's Owls lost to the UNLV Runnin Rebels with Jerry Tarkanian out in Las Vegas, 59-58, to suffer their first loss of the 1988 season. We'll have a lot more on that 88 Temple team as the February and March come in. But one of the all-time great teams lost today, the first loss of the season out in Las Vegas. But it was controversial. Mark Macon swears that the bench tipped it in, and I'm not going to not believe Mark Macon when he says that, because he was just such an outstanding player that year that he would have made the right decision. Finally today, pulling out the big guns today. I've been kind of teasing this all week, but starting yesterday and then going through today, tomorrow, and Sunday, we are forgiving a lot of big names here in Philly sports. Really, all week we've been doing it. But today, we're going to forgive two people. And the reason I'm doing two is because these two are intertwined in Philly sports history, and that is Joe Carter and Mitch Williams. Let's start with Joe Carter. We're going to forgive him for obvious reasons. At the time, we all felt that the Philly sports teams were cursed, and that magical 93 Phillies run just gave us something to believe and hope for. I remember as a young kid just being excited to finally see the Phillies play in the postseason. And then Joe Carter ripped our hearts out. Still the worst sports moment of my life. And I've been to a lot of Eagles losses in big games. I've seen them lose in the Super Bowl. I've seen them lose in person. But the Game 6 of the 1993 World Series, when Joe Carter hit that home run, still my worst Philly sports moment. But that pitch was given up by Mitch Williams, so that's why they're intertwined. To kind of set the stage, Ricky Henderson was on second, Paul Molitor was on first. There was one out in the bottom of the ninth, and Mitch was concerned with Ricky Henderson. He's the greatest baseball Steeler, rest in peace, of all time, so you have to keep an eye on Ricky Henderson. And the pitch he threw was supposed to be high and in, but he used a slide step to kind of keep Ricky Henderson close on the base, something that Mitch usually never did. And obviously he missed. It was kind of middle in, and Joe Carter was a good hitter. Good hitters are not going to miss on your mistakes like that. The dream was over. So, again, goes from my worst Philly sports moment. We need to forgive this to get some big karma here. So worst moment, big karma equals big forgiveness. And this is something I have never done. A lot of these I've come to grips with, but this one still stings to this day. So it's hard for me as I'm doing this. But we're going to forgive Joe Carter for not missing Mitch Williams' mistakes and for absolutely ripping my, I guess I was 12, 13-year-old heart out. And by all stretch of the imagination, Joe Carter's a nice guy. Nobody really has anything bad to say about him. Solid player, but Joe, I forgive you for ripping my heart out and not missing on Mitch Williams' mistake. And Mitch, I'm going to forgive you for doing the slide step and missing on the pitch. And here's the thing with Mitch. Wasn't always pretty with him, but he did have 43 saves that year, and I will go to my grave saying we don't get to the World Series without Mitch Williams. Yeah, I'm sure he was tired at that point. They probably were all tired. You can make the argument that he shouldn't have been in there. Roger Mason should have been in there, or David West. But at the end of the day, it's not his fault that Jim Fregosi put him in. And Mitch, I will forgive you for missing that pitch. And truthfully, Mitch did kind of make amends with Philly fans when he was on Post Game Live. Had a little bit of a gig there on MLB Network. And if you really get to know him, and he's kind of is a Philly type guy. You could see him going down and pounding a few beers in an Eagles game. But for missing that pitch, Mitch, I forgive you. So Joe Carter and Mitch Williams, the combination of the two of you, I forgive you both for it all, for the pitch, the hit, the miss, ripping my heart out, all of it. I'm getting chills just thinking about it because this is a big moment for me that I'm finally letting this go from 1993. But again, big game on Sunday. We need big good karma, that equals big forgiveness or means big forgiveness. So big, this is probably about as big as I can come up with for us to forgive. We're going to forgive the pair of them. So Joe Carter and Mitch Williams, I forgive you. On this day in 1988, Temple loses to UNLV 59-58 out in Las Vegas for their first loss of the season. However, they would not lose again until the NCAA tournament, one of John Chaney's greatest teams on North Broad. We'll have more on the Eagles-Commanders game, including the injury updates as we go through practice on a Friday. But I'm ready. Let's go. I can't wait. And by the way, again, shout out to Ryan from Philly Goat for being on KYW today. Go check out Philly Goat. Use that promo code. If you want to celebrate the forgiveness, Joe Carter, you can forgive him, but he still ruins your childhood. Philly Goat has a shirt for that too. So be sure to go check out the Joe Carter forgiveness shirt. We'll reluctantly have an update on the Sixers tomorrow, but hopefully the Flyers can bounce back. Cannot wait. We're so close. This is like the worst day leading up to a big game is the Friday. Because Saturday you got stuff going on. You can focus. Like, it's going to be impossible to focus on work today because all I'm going to be thinking about is the 3 keys to the game, whether Jalen can be mobile, is the Washington defense going to play dirty. All of that's going to be through my mind. So I apologize to the people at work now. Not going to be concentrating or focusing on work at all. It's all about Eagles NFC Championship Game. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for January 24th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.